Back in 2004, I was watching the news and the story broke out that there was a girl from Montreal, where I'm from, who had contracted HIV after going to LA to shoot porn. And at the time, I was doing a documentary photography series on local sex workers in Montreal. So I was already pretty involved in that scene. And I had already kind of had a sense of what the agents and managers and strip clubs and like the men kind of running the business were like. I sort of had the impression that they knew which girls they could take advantage of. So if a girl doesn't have a lot of, isn't very self-empowered and doesn't really know what she's doing in the industry, it can be very dangerous. So that was sort of the type of girl that I saw when I saw Lara. I wrote her a letter to ask her if she wanted to participate in this documentary photo series, but she misunderstood and thought I was proposing to do a documentary. And so after taking some photos of her and talking, I started to think more and more that I should do this film with her. And that's sort of how it happened. I thought the film was going to be a lot more about the sex industry, about the porn industry through her experience, but it's really much more about a woman trying to create a new identity for herself. I felt a tremendous amount of responsibility towards her. And a lot of it because when I met her, when I found out about her, it was from the media. Because when she tested HIV positive, her porn stage name was published on a website in California. So everybody knew who she was. They didn't know her real name, but they knew who Lara Roxx was, and they knew her face. And shortly after that, because her name was already out there, she ended up doing a lot of very sensational news shows that paid her quite a bit, like ABC with Diane Sawyer, these type of kind of investigative report shows. So basically, and also just getting to know her really well, and we became friends. I wanted her to be proud of it, proud of the film, and I wanted her to have her say in, you know, how she was being represented. And so we had a lot of dialogue. She wasn't really involved in the editing, but we had a lot of dialogue while I was editing about things that she felt uncomfortable with, or, you know, I tried to kind of, it was just very challenging. It took over a year to edit, and I had to have an editor with me. It was impossible to do it myself, because by that point I had known her for so long, and I'm very present in the film because you hear me off camera and I'm shooting most of it myself, so it felt very intimate for me also to edit, so I needed somebody else. The whole idea of like where to draw the line with documentary filmmakers, there's a lot of debates about it. I know a lot of filmmakers who are very adamant about keeping a distance from their subjects. But for me, I was shooting more on instinct. I don't come from a filmmaking background, so it wasn't really, I just did what seemed natural to me. And to get to know her really well seemed the best way for me to make this film. At one point, she gets really involved in hard drugs, and on her own terms, she decided to go into rehab. And there was something about that at the end of the film. You see her talking to counselors, and I could just feel that she had come to a point in her life where I felt like it was time to shut the cameras off. It took 5 years for her to really kind of grow up and come to terms with this. So 2 years into shooting, I remember at one point thinking, if it takes 10 years, it'll take 10 years. I saw it as a sort of an ongoing project of mine. So I don't think a man could have possibly directed this film, because I had tried working with some cameramen once we got a bit of funding. And as soon as there was a male in the room, she was a completely different person, because I think that she was so used to, like, she has a persona still today that she'll probably always have that's much different when speaking with men. So I think it really took a woman to make it. I learned so much making this film because I come from a photography background, so it's hard to put it all. I think just being organized and just listening to your instincts. I think it's important to get people's advice, but to just kind of go with your gut, and whether it means compromising money or not in the end.